the best part about it is that they're just going about handling their business. I was listening to Arvell Reason is literally like 5-word sentences about himself and some of the things that Caleb has been talking about. The dudes are just so locked in here about just doing their job and not worrying about all the other things and awards. They know all those happen when you go win and you win decisively.
The Bobby Carpenter Show, only on SportsGrid.
Baker Mayfield is the most important player on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they are in first place right now, looking dead in the eye of home field advantage throughout the playoffs. They played a bad division. They're going to win a lot of games, and they're the best fourth quarter team, or at least the 2-minute warning team in all football. So, don't sleep on that.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Awesome and monumentous win against Oregon. Texas has saved their season. Texas has given themselves life to potentially crash the college football playoff party. For OU, a loss to Texas shouldn't be the end of your season. And yet with that remaining schedule, it feels like it could be. Books certainly pricing it that way. A lot of movement off of the Red River rivalry.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Paige or Caitlin? Who do you take and why?
I think for the WNBA, in a sense where they're moving toward more guards when it's been very post and big heavy in the past. But there's a reason why Caitlin Clark set all those records at college and then went into the WNBA and set all those records immediately. I really do think she's just a different level talent.
Betting above the rim, only on Sports.
Good afternoon. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. Great to be back with you here. It's our midweek edition of the show, getting ready for the World Series and another week of football. But of course, last night, some fun. NBA opened up the season, 2 games, both exciting. We will break them down for you here on the show as well. Michael DeCourcy will join us from Sporting News, latest in the National Football League. Sam McQuillan weighs in on our top story, which we'll get to, and a whole lot more. Simon Applebaum will tell us what exactly things look like with the NBA back on NBC. We also have Dexter Henry in the house breaking down the latest in the NBA. And of course, with 2 games last night, you know that you can expect a full slate of games tonight in the National Basketball Association. So without further ado, let's get to our top story, which is a big one for the sports betting company, as you know, called DraftKings, making a significant announcement, but not really giving too much away with it. I'll explain. Tuesday, DraftKings says that they've acquired a Commodity Futures Trading Commission licensed derivative called Railbird. Let me put this in layman's terms. They want to get into the predictions market, does DraftKings. They're seeing all these other companies launch in states where sports betting is not legal, and prediction markets apparently is unregulated and operating, saying that we are excited about the additional opportunity that prediction markets could represent for our business. This is from Jason Robbins. He's the co-founder and CEO. Also saying that Railbird's team and platform combined with DraftKings positions us to win in the incremental space. So what does it mean? It means get ready to see DraftKings open up the prediction markets in states where they don't have legal access to sports betting. Stay tuned. Last night in the National Basketball Association, the Golden State Warriors ended up getting a win against the Los Angeles Lakers. Nice games from both Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry, and both perfect at the free throw line, by the way, last night. Curry and Butler going 100% from the line. Butler 16 of 16, by the way, in free throws. Wow. All right, so Golden State gets off to a good start in LA, although it looks to me like the game could have been closer based on a few breaks for the Lakers. That's not exactly the way that it turned out. Let's hear from Steph Curry on getting off to a better start this season.
Not getting too ahead of ourselves. We know how we started last year and know where it went from there. It's just for us, every game is an opportunity to get better. That's the greatest answer you wanted. In the sense of we're just plotting our way through night after night. The way the preseason went this year, it was kind of interesting because it was 3 totally different styles that we played in a row: Portland, LA, the Clippers. This week is kind of the same vibe with Denver and Portland back to back. So just for us, is how can you switch the game plan quickly to understand how Denver plays, knowing their tendencies, knowing how great Jokic is him and Murray. So and then some of the additions they have, but take a game at a time and enjoy, this process.
That group that was out there for most of the fourth to generate good shots. That's just the reality of who those guys are right now, and that's not an excuse for a lack of toughness, a lack of just on court. Hey, let's figure this out and play a little harder.
Maybe the first game of the season in the NBA is going to end up being one of the best. Crazy overtime, 2 overtime last night between the Rockets and Oklahoma City Thunder. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the reigning MVP, got his ring, and the Thunder got their win, but it wasn't easy. 125-124 the final, as much as you could possibly ask for in the first game of the season. That's what ended up happening. But a nice opening, by the way, I thought, for NBA on NBC as well. You could see they got their championship rings, and in case you missed it, they got a ring. Their championship rings have a little ring inside the ring. We're gonna have to dive into that at some point too. Anyway, here's SGA on the opening ceremonies and getting the victory.
You had the ring ceremony before, but just curious, you showed as much joy as I think we outwardly see from you during that whole thing. What was that like for you?
Yeah, it was surreal. I don't know how to describe it besides that. It was super fun though. Seeing the banner raised was cool too. Knowing that it'll be up there forever, and we were the first group to bring the city a championship was a pretty special feeling.
And we had plenty of opportunity to win it, and we made enough mistakes to lose it, and that's what ended up happening. But there are plenty of positive takeaway, like you said. I think some game plan specifics that got away from us in the second half, especially in the zone. With Gilgeous-Alexander, forcing him to certain areas, and he got away from that. We did a good job in the first half and kept him in check. And then just, missed free throws and fouling shooters, and then some of the late fouls that we had fouled to give. We wanted to hit and trap some guys, we didn't. So plenty of takeaways. We got to be able to play and follow some instruction, and it hurt us in the key moments.
Let's get to some football. We're going to get some updates on injuries today in the National Football League, get a clearer picture. We got some pictures yesterday coming in. Of course, there's a Thursday night football game, so naturally we're going to learn a little bit here. We'll get to the Vikings in just a minute. They play Thursday night. First, yesterday, Woody Johnson at a separate event outside of the NFL made some interesting comments following the team's struggles. In fact, Johnson, of course, has been under fire, as have the Jets. They haven't won a game this season, and their quarterback play has been pretty poor. And Johnson essentially, making a little sarcastic joke, it sounds like, with the media about the quarterback play.
What's your confidence level in Aaron to turn it around?
Well, it looks like he's turning around parts of it. It's hard when you have a quarterback with, with a rating that we got. He has the ability, but something just is not jiving. But if you look at any head coach with a quarterback like that, you're going to see similar results if you go across the league. You have to play consistently with, at that position, and that's what we're going to try to do for the remainder of the season.
So what gives you hope then?
I just think defense, special teams are doing better. Defense is pretty good, and if we can just complete a pass, it would look good. We got to complete some passes. You got to convince them that you can do something. Otherwise, it's hard to have a game that you could win.
I like it. Keeping it simple. Just got to complete passes. By the way, Tyrod Taylor is supposed to potentially start this week for the Jets. Looks like he's questionable going into the game with a knee issue, so it could be Justin Fields again. Meanwhile, the Vikings make a decision on Thursday night. It's going to be Carson Wentz. It looks like their head coach, Kevin O'Connell, wanted to turn potentially to J.J. McCarthy, but he told the media yesterday he's not ready.
Wanted to give you guys just an update earlier this morning. We did put J.J. McCarthy through an on-field workout just to see if he had a chance to make it this week. JJ, the medical staff, myself, we're all kind of encouraged about where he's at and the progress he's making, but he's just not there. And if this was a Sunday game, maybe it would be a little bit of a different story, and we could push it throughout the week and see where he's at towards the end of the week. But really, I look at today almost as the combination of a Wednesday, Thursday, but really it is a Friday on the timeline of coming up on being 48 hours out from the game. So we wanted to have a plan at the quarterback position, and it'll be very similar to last week. Carson will start, Max will be the backup, and JJ will be available in the case of emergency as the third. Like I said, encouraged about where he's at, and very much looking forward to continuing his progression and hopefully having a chance to go next week, and we'll keep you guys posted on that.
Meanwhile, the tush push continues to be looked at and figuring out better ways to officiate it. Troy Vincent, the executive vice president of the NFL, says they're going to keep working on it, figure out how to do it. This could be the last year of the tush push. It certainly feels like it. All right, a fine for players not being hurt but pretending they are. Texas A&M, $50,000 for faking an injury in their game this past week for defensive back Tyreek Chappelle. Also, Clemson's wide receiver Bryant Wesco out for the remainder of the season, 500 yards, 6 touchdowns. He's good. Arizona State also fined $50,000 for fans storming the field this past weekend. Michael DeCourcy is going to join us from Sporting News. We'll get an early look at this week's NFL slate right after this. Buy or sell, Genty will finish the season as the top rookie fantasy running back. And I guess I would ask this question to you, George. Who the bleep is he competing with at this point? It is so ugly at running back in fantasy. RJ Harvey has done nothing. Omarion Hampton is hurt. Caleb Johnson, does anybody even know where that guy is? He doesn't even play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, what am I missing here? Oh, there's one. There's one that I'm missing. There's one that I'm missing.
I'll name that for you. I'll name the guy you didn't mention there. Well, Henderson's another guy, by the way. The New England Patriots don't trust, right? They don't play him. But the guy that could compete with Genty, would be the name that you said you loved during preseason. You love this guy's name, Cam Scotabo, right? He'd be the guy. He's right there with them. The only problem for Cam would be, A, it is the Giants. Their schedule is brutal. And B, Tracy should return. So that's going to take away. Cam will be the starters. I think he will be. But Tracy's going to eat up some touches there. So that's my only issues there. But I think he's the guy who competes with Genty for that number 1 overall role, which I'm shocked. I'm shocked that it's not Hampton, but he got hurt. Shocked that it's not Henderson, but they don't like him. Shocked whatever, RJ Harvey in Denver, whatever's going on here. Will he finish the season at his top? This is a little different when I say I automatically take the field here because there's only one other guy. I'm going to buy this. Genty's the best guy, but would I be surprised if it's Scotabo? No, I would not.
Yeah, I'm going to sell this for the guy that I just forgot about in Cam Scotabo. I guess the only concern that I would have, and it's a slight one, is that in a couple of weeks, Tyrone Tracy comes back.
Fantasy Sports Today. Fridays starting at 3 p.m. Eastern. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We got Michael DeCourcy in the house, so we're going to get our little ratings bump from that. And the executives here at SportsGrid said we want to really draw people in with Mike. So let's make sure we review the best game of the week in the National Football League to begin. And so we thought let's start off with Jets Bengals because that's where everybody wants to be in Cincinnati coming up this week. Bengals 6.5-point favorites against the Jets, total 43.5. It looks like we got some little bit of a mini breaking news situation where ESPN's reporting that Tyrod Taylor's now banged up. So maybe it is Justin Fields starting yet again. And, I kind of, honestly, I didn't think the Jets were going to win last week. It's not that I picked them to win or anything, but I did think that the offense would be opened up a lot more based on what we saw the week before, Mike, but it didn't happen again. And so now I'm looking at this total of 43.5 and thinking Flacco probably already had his best game of the season. Is this the race to 20 in this one?
Well, that's a great question. And a lot of it may depend upon how well the Jets attack Flacco. The Steelers left that on the table. There was a lot of conversation about the fact that Flacco was getting the ball out of his hands quickly, but there were many occasions when Flacco was able to drop back and find a open receiver against the zone. I think the Jets will be more aggressive, and it will be fascinating to see how Flacco holds up against that. The offensive line has not been particularly impressive for the Bengals, so we'll see whether or not they're able to get to Flacco. I would say that, honestly, the Bengals will have to show that they can't score against this team. And the Jets at this point, they seem to fear putting their offense on the field. And when you're in that position, it's hard to do anything successfully. You go back to the fourth quarter when the Jets really had a chance to maybe flip things a little bit. They weren't going to become all of a sudden the 2007 Patriots, but they could have flipped things a little bit there. And instead, they completely retreated. They were up 11-10. They had multiple opportunities either to extend that lead or to come back from 13-11. And they honestly looked like they feared having their offense on the field. That's not Justin Fields' fault. That's a coaching decision.
Yeah, a tough scene, I would say, for the Jets in general. All right, I've talked enough about them. Let's move on to another game here. All right, Ravens 6.5-point favorites against the Bears. Why is this line important? Because it indicates that Lamar Jackson's going to play against the Bears. There's no question they would not be my closest 7-point favorites, if not total of 50.5. Today we'll get more of an indication when they practice. The Bears have played better. Their opponents have not been great. I don't know how the Ravens' odds are still there to go very far in the NFL this season. Like I just don't see it even with Lamar Jackson, but it seems like they're taking things pretty seriously now. They're taking some fun things out of their locker room to see if that changes the idea. No more ping pong, no more cornhole, basketball hoops, video games. I mean, look, I trust Harbaugh. He's won every single season. You could make the case, Mike, that this is probably the worst John Harbaugh season in Baltimore ever.
Well, they had some tough years toward the end of Flacco's effectiveness, but this with Lamar out has been really a problem. And then, of course, they've had multiple injuries beyond his. I do think it's interesting. I wouldn't put money on the Ravens until I knew for certain that Lamar is going to be out there, and we'll have a better idea today. Harbaugh was very dodgy about that question on Monday when Lamar did not practice at all. He didn't seem to want to talk about it. Now, is that because he doesn't want to he doesn't want to yield to the inevitability that he won't play, or that he's trying to hide that he will? Hard to say. But I understand when I looked at their schedule why they still have pretty good odds to win the AFC North. It's a pretty weak schedule from here. Their schedule was very front-loaded. A lot of the more difficult games were placed into September, early October. And from here on out, yeah, they'll play the Bengals, they'll play the Steelers, the other contenders in the division. But it's other than that, they don't have a lot of difficult games against high-end NFL opposition.
Yeah, would agree there. And I think the Ravens can jump back in it. Let me not go that far, but to think that they can go, to me, after losing 5-6 games at the beginning of the season, miracle would have to happen for them to get home field advantage, and that is really the key in the AFC. Okay, it is the revenge game on deck for Aaron Rodgers, not in Green Bay, but in Pittsburgh, where the Packers are 3.5-point favorites, total of 44.5 on Sunday Night Football. Everyone will be locked into this to see if Rodgers can exact some revenge against his former team. And he's no stranger to these big moments. He's played very well, by the way, the last few weeks. Seems like he's sort of gotten things turned around. Very key interception, I thought, last week. Really cost them the game, in my opinion. I know you watched too. But dangerous to give Tomlin points, I think, in this spot. And the Packers, I got to tell you, Mike, like they came through late in that game and Micah Parsons put them away, but they haven't been as impressive as I thought they'd be.
Yeah, they're struggling to find themselves in much the same way as the Steelers. The Steelers is just more dramatic because their defense has been so poor, whereas with the the Packers, it's been more little things, not quite there on the defensive side. For instance, in the Bengals game, it's the second half in particular, not quite there on the offensive side here and there, like when they played the Browns. But in general, I think if the Steelers could get their defense back toward what they were against the Vikings. Obviously, they were very good against the Browns. It's not as hard to be good against the Browns, but more toward that Vikings game when they were able to suppress two outstanding receivers for most of the game. I think that they would have a much better shot. But this is a game. This is the first time, really, that they'll face a team with a grade A quarterback and a really good roster. And so this is a challenge for the Steelers that's pretty much unlike they've faced this year. And I would not be really comfortable predicting anything regarding this outcome because of that. We don't know what they are against the best because they haven't played the best.
Finally, Dolphins and Falcons this week. I thought last week was rock bottom for the Dolphins, and I usually like to back those teams, Mike, in the NFL. I'm just not so sure about this one. By the way, who's quarterback in the Falcons this week, too? 7.5 is the line, total 44.5. McDaniel says Tua will start again.
Yeah, I kind of like the Dolphins getting 7.5. That's a big number to give to a team that at its best can be a proficient offense. And the Falcons are not as dynamic on offense that they would blow out many opponents.
Mike, thanks for coming on. We'll catch up next week.
And sometimes your offense can benefit your defense.
Yeah.
They are going to need to sustain drives, I believe. They can't go 3 and out, and all of a sudden Price and Jeremiah Love are ripping your defense for 5 and 8 yards per carry. Otherwise, it's going to be a long day. So we'll see how this game plays out. I do favor the rushing attack and physicality of Notre Dame. The way they're running the football right now is as good as anybody.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
I think I just smiled for the first time in relation to this game.
Yeah, my misery, right? My misery cost you a smile.
That was the price to pay.
This game is like watching paint dry. I mean, 21-0 in the first half. We have no action in the second. Brian Thomas, glass house. The guy can't stay on the field. His stone hands today.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
You don't worry, too much. I don't think Kendrick Bourne is a bad play. He's probably a good streamer, but I don't think he's going to get you 10 for 140 again. And he got you 10 for 140 again. And now he gets Mac Jones again this week playing quarterback. And Mac Jones has just found this connection. Now, you do have a returning George Kittle. That's going to put a wrinkle in this offense. Eventually, you should get a returning Brock Purdy. So Bourne's value is at its zenith. That's when you try to sell guys off.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
After the first week of football, who'd have thought Alabama would be right back on the top? After a couple losses, Texas would have a chance to be back where they are. And we've all kind of watched Texas A&M and Ole Miss kind of jump right in the hunt. And, that Texas A&M's kind of become my dark horse because they can beat you offensively and they can beat you defensively.
The Bowden Blitz, only on SportsGrid.
Back to college football previews we go. Yesterday we heard from Lane Kiffin, Mike Elko, Kalen DeBoer. Now let's take the other side of the coin as we preview Ole Miss and Oklahoma. We'll hear from Sooners head coach, Texas A&M battling LSU. We'll hear from Aggies Mike Elko, and then of course Alabama, South Carolina, and we'll hear from Shane Beamer here on the show as well. Time now to preview college football slate this week. It's the SportsGrid Sound Off. All right, let's get ready for one of the big games in the SEC this week. It is Ole Miss and Oklahoma. We know that Mississippi came up short last week against Georgia. We also know that Oklahoma still ranked inside the top 15, struggling a little bit on offense. So it will have to be the defense that gets the job done against Mississippi to keep this game close, because we know that Rebels, no stranger to scoring 40, 50 points on offense this season. Let's get a preview with Brent Venables, head coach of the Sooners, preparing for this showdown.
Yeah, everything started, with Coach Stoops and Coach Snyder, Coach Levitt, my linebackers coach, just their prep, their detail. We would work on people year round. And I love that. I love the strategy of the game and trying to understand the DNA of people. Mentality as much as you do the scheme. I think that's important. And then you study people in their most stressful, pressure-filled, game-on-the-line moments. Those always, from a DNA standpoint, always will show back up. But find out what people really believe in and what they do well. And, defensively, you got to, do your best to try to take those things away and make them, lean on something that maybe they're not quite as good at. And so that's kind of where it starts. Our ability to get our players to understand that is what's most important. My ability as a coach and as in a coordinator role is to make sure everybody in the room, I'm just one person, everybody in the room sees it the same way.
I think right now Oklahoma needs this win as much as any team does in college football this week after their brutal loss to Texas in the Red River rivalry a couple weeks ago. Okay, Texas A&M takes on LSU. Speaking of needing a win in Death Valley, yes, that has got to be Brian Kelly, another ranked team coming in. Texas A&M number 3 in the country, but Kelly says, let's start giving the highly ranked teams their credit. That's just where they are.
Whether we like it or not, Indiana's number 2 in the country. Whether we like it or not, Vanderbilt's number 10 in the country. These are teams that have earned their rankings, and they're good football teams. They played exceedingly well. I give credit to Vanderbilt. They took care of the football. They have an outstanding quarterback who, on 3 occasions where we hit the call right on some nakeds, he made things happen. And so you got to give credit where credit's due in this situation as well. We're disappointed with the loss. Don't get me wrong. And we want to do better for our fan base. We get that. But having said that, there were a lot of things that we can take away from the game that we need to build on. And that's where we are right now, is that we have a great opportunity this weekend in Tiger Stadium, to play the number 3 team in the country. That's exciting. And we believe the way we're moving, if we continue to get better on both sides of the ball, we're prepared to win the game.
Meanwhile, South Carolina's had a rough season, but in 1 week, everything can change. This is Alabama week for them. Yesterday, we heard from Kalen DeBoer. This week, it is Shane Beamer. And Beamer, of course, is looking for this victory to salvage a season that's been anything but fun for him, and talked about just what it would mean to upset the Crimson Tide.
All right, excited for a new week. Grateful for another opportunity to go compete that we get to Saturday in Williams-Brice. Big challenge. Alabama's got a fantastic team. Coach DeBoer has done an amazing job with them. Great athletes on defense, really good players and dynamic on special teams, and then a quarterback that is playing better than any quarterback in the nation right now. I mean, this guy is on fire. He's a great young man. We tried to recruit him here. Great young man, great player, great family, and really happy for his success. Some of the throws he's made this season, I mean, just are mind-boggling. He's playing at a high level. Their offense is operating at a high level. Got a big challenge in front of us, but I know our guys are really looking forward to the opportunity to go compete Saturday afternoon in Williams-Brice Stadium again. And certainly disappointed with last Saturday, but new week, and this is another opportunity for our guys to get better this week and go compete and hard at it.
And finally, as we wrap up this segment before we bring in Simon Applebaum, the Miami Dolphins have placed Darren Waller on injured reserve. Less than 24 hours ago, the reports were Waller was week to week. He's out 4 weeks. We'll be right back.
sometimes your offense can benefit your defense.
Yeah.
They are going to need to sustain drives, I believe. They can't go 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, and all of a sudden Price and Jeremiah Love are ripping your defense for 5 and 8 yards per carry. Otherwise, it's going to be a long day. So we'll see how this game plays out. I do favor the rushing attack and physicality of Notre Dame. The way they're running the football right now is as good as anybody.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
I think I just smiled for the first time in relation to this game.
Yeah, my misery, right? My misery cost you a smile.
That was the price to
This
pay.
game is like watching paint dry. I mean, 21-0 in the first half. We have no action in the second. Brian Thomas, glass house. The guy can't stay on the field. His stone hands today.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Don't worry, too much. I don't think Kendrick Bourne is a bad play. He's probably a good streamer, but I don't think he's going to get you 10 for 140 again. And he got you 10 for 140 again. And now he gets Mac Jones again this week playing quarterback. And Mac Jones has just found this connection. Now, you do have a returning George Kittle. That's going to put a wrinkle in this offense. Eventually, you should get a returning Brock Purdy. So Bourne's value is at its zenith. That's when you try to sell guys off.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
After the first week of football, who'd have thought Alabama would be right back on the top? After a couple losses, Texas would have a chance to be back where they are. And we've all kind of watched Texas A&M and Ole Miss kind of jump right in the hunt. And, that Texas A&M's kind of become my dark horse because they can beat you offensively and they can beat you defensively.
The Bowden Blitz, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Big news in the world of sports betting and things that are not sports betting here in the United States. Let's bring in Sam McQuillan from Legal Sports Report. DraftKings Sam makes an announcement that if all these other companies are going to be operating in states that are not legal to bet on sports, we're going to jump on in and do the same thing. I would imagine FanDuel probably will follow suit as long as these prediction markets, Sam, which feel like gambling and they're not gambling, are I don't even want to say legal, but unregulated, then I think DraftKings has no choice to jump into the field, don't they?
Yeah, that's definitely the vibe we're getting across the industry right now, where you have DraftKings, just after FanDuel made a similar move, announcing that they're acquiring Railbird Exchange yesterday, which is a CFTC licensed exchange, which will allow DraftKings to launch a new product it's going to call DraftKings Predictions, which, as you guessed it, is a prediction market in states where there is no legal sports betting. Now, importantly, the release DraftKings put out yesterday did not mention that it would be doing sports prediction markets. There's other markets, of course. You can bet on things like what will President Trump tweet about today. You can even bet on a prediction market whether or not DraftKings will launch a prediction market this year. DraftKings not saying they're getting into sports yet, although a lot of analysts that I've talked to who watch this for financial reasons have said, no, they're definitely going to launch a sports prediction market before the end of the year. And, check the calendar, we only have about a month left. So there could be even more big news in this space any day. We don't really know when it's going to come, but this is really important because, companies like Kalshi and Polymarket have been offering these sports prediction markets, which, as you say, some people say it is sports betting. Some people say it's not sports betting. The CFTC has not gotten involved. You have a number of states suing. I think 6 have filed lawsuits to say it is sports betting. But meanwhile, these companies have taken, just a tremendous amount of volume. Kalshi is now worth about $5 billion, similar number for Polymarket. And it's all on the back of, the sports betting that's being offered in states like California and states like Texas, where DraftKings and FanDuel haven't been able to get in. So DraftKings announcing yesterday that it's acquiring this exchange and it's going to the prediction market kind of gives it some leverage to switch it on whenever maybe it does want to do it. Now, some states have warned as well that if DraftKings or FanDuel or anybody else does these sports prediction markets, those states are going to view that as unlicensed sports betting, and that could jeopardize their licenses in places like Arizona, places like Ohio, Nevada, and I'm told a growing number of states are going to issue that same guidance as well. So it's sort of a leverage thing right now where DraftKings, their stock has been taking a hit as Kalshi and Polymarket have been doing sports betting in states that DraftKings can't, while DraftKings is now preparing to do it, but obviously doesn't want to piss off states as well. The CFTC, meanwhile, has really not weighed in at all, so maybe that will come down the road too. But this could all really just rapidly change in about a month because, before the new year, there's not much time. So FanDuel, DraftKings, both kind of making similar plays here.
Yeah, it's a fascinating story to see how this goes. I cannot imagine nothing is ever said on this subject, but that's where we are right now. It's really wild. Okay, well, while this is happening, it looks like the government definitely has their eyes on some of the right prizes, as we would say here, because through legalized sports betting, they've been able to follow some of these potential illegal moves that have been making in the sports betting markets. And I know that, Sam, a story broke late last week about some potential irregularities in college basketball, and the regulated market maybe was able to help figure this out. But is there more coming with the story? Are they legitimately finding that there could be some illegal business going on with the student athletes as well?
Yeah, anytime the FBI and the U.S. Attorney Office is involved in a sports betting case, there's definitely, some serious things are going to shake here. There's definitely more to come. You had this integrity monitoring firm called IC360, which works, like you mentioned, Craig, with the regulated sports betting market to identify any suspicious betting patterns. They found what they're calling an illegal gambling syndicate, basically a ring that organized a very similar pattern of bets across 13 states and Canada, targeting small conference schools in college basketball. These are schools like Eastern Michigan, Temple, New Orleans, and I don't think it's any coincidence that over the past year, we've also seen athletes at those schools suspended or banned for being allegedly involved in illegal gambling, manipulating their performance. These were bets that took place last year from December to January, so only a small amount of time, but it said that they targeted these first half point spreads at these smaller schools. Of course, maybe those can fly under the radar versus, programs like Duke or UNC, where there's a lot more attention kind of paid to it. But the flip side of that is if there is irregular betting patterns at smaller schools, that's going to be flagged pretty easily. One of the guys who's been named in this case actually as a potential suspect is a Mississippi man named Marv's Fairley, who sells picks online, and he's also he has also relation to Shane Hennon, who is a co-conspirator in the Jonte Porter NBA case. If you remember that, Jonte Porter suspended for life last year for manipulating his performance on different games. So they think that this ring kind of has bigger ties to different things going on behind the scenes in gambling that's maybe not so legal, not so great. But I would say, this could be a case of the regulated market working like it's supposed to, catching bad actors. This could also be a case of, just as sports betting becomes more mainstream and more a part of our daily lives, it promoting this kind of behavior as well. So want to make sure that we're not saying that, this is all great that this is being caught. It's definitely not good that it's being caught. It's good that we are catching it. But the fact that we keep talking about stuff more and more like this is not a good thing. So we'll see what shakes in this case. Again, there's no formal charges have been filed. We don't know what'll happen yet, but I imagine we'll get some more pretty soon.
All right, finally, let's get to Illinois and a new bill basically being pushed here. Is there a chance sports betting taxes change, Sam, in that state?
Yeah, Illinois is an interesting case. It raised taxes on sports books this past year, which then FanDuel and DraftKings passed down to bettors with their surcharges famously, and it's been a very high tax state. As soon as the city of Chicago saw that, they had the idea, why don't we get our own money from sports betting on top of what we already get? The city gets about 2% of all betting revenue. That comes from the state's tax. But recently this summer, some lawmakers proposed charging a 10% handle tax on top of that, which would just be crippling for sports books and potentially change the way they do business beyond the surcharge in the state. This week, the sports books got a win because lawmakers filed a bill that would essentially block Chicago from doing that. It would clarify that only the state of Illinois can impose a tax on sports betting and not a city. So, the tax has not been adopted yet. It has not been passed yet, but this bill is kind of a blocking measure that would prevent it from going in place if in fact it did. The people who filed it are actually representatives of Chicago, so they're from the city. They're kind of saying, this is really going to cripple the industry if we do this even more. I think it's really important when we talk about this stuff because so many places want to keep taxing sports betting more and more and more, which is well within their right. But there gets to a point where the bubble bursts and sports books either don't want to do business or they change the way they do it by passing it down to the customers, which obviously we've already seen in Illinois. Now, importantly, legislature is not adjourned or they haven't met yet. So nothing on this bill can move until January 2026 when they get in session. But more than anything, it's kind of a blocking measure getting out in front of this thing to prevent Chicago from putting what would be a very, very heavy tax in place.
Yeah, definitely so. Sam, the other thing that we're closing in on, by the way, December 1st, Missouri opens up sports betting, where it's probably, I would guess, the only legalization in a new state this year and maybe even next year, too. I did see the story about Nebraska as a possibility of moving forward here. But in preparations for that, I'm assuming that that's our biggest sports betting story of the year, still yet to come.
Yeah, it's crazy. We have a sports betting state going online in less than a month, and the only thing we're talking about is prediction markets. So that should show you where the whole industry is thinking right now.
Yeah, definitely so. And we'll see if anything changes with prediction markets in the future. My guess is we'll hear FanDuel getting into the prediction market business in the next week or so because they just follow each other these days. All right, Sam, enjoy the NBA start for your team tonight, and we'll catch up again soon. Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks, Craig.
All right, huge NBA slate, by the way, coming up. But there were some big games last night and the debut of the NBA on NBC. How did it look? Simon Applebaum from the podcast Tomorrow Will Be Televised will join us. Also, a new contract for Formula One. Some big money being handed out by one streaming service. We'll tell you who that is next.
After the first week of football, who'd have thought Alabama would be right back on the top? After a couple losses, Texas would have a chance to be back where they are. And we've all kind of watched Texas A&M and Ole Miss kind of jump right in the hunt. And, that Texas A&M's kind of become my dark horse because they can beat you offensively and they can beat you defensively.
The Bowden Blitz, only on SportsGrid.
Better bets $90,000, FanDuel, New Jersey, LA. Oh, it must be some sharp hockey better. Yeah, or a rich kid with nothing better to do on a Tuesday night. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That is funny. God rest his soul, Dave Sheriff always used to say, if he told me this one time, Gabe, he told me 1,000. It's not how much someone bets that moves line, it's who's betting.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
I think they are fringes. Yeah, that might be a push. That's a preference thing, I think. Do you want to be in the SEC? Do you want to live in Happy Valley versus Norman? Maybe you can go down to Texas.
I would take Norman.
Well, to go down and get talent out of Texas.
Yes.
But I think you've got to have alumni, president, athletic director that are all on board and committed to winning. And you need to have a fan base that shows up in sports.
The Bobby Carpenter Show, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Honestly, things couldn't have gone better for the return of the NBA on NBC last night. 2 exciting games, a double overtime game, And in interviews with Michael Jordan, I mean, I don't know what more that the NBA could have asked for. I'm sure when Simon comes back on the show next week, we're going to get some pretty good ratings, which, Simon, would be rare for a network in a midweek situation in a sporting event. But the NBC network went all out for the beginning of the NBA. We're going to see how Prime does, of course, and we'll see how ESPN does. But it seems like, from what I'm reading, a pretty overwhelming broadcast victory to start.
It was, and when you consider the fact that for the very first time we now have weeknight games of the NBA on broadcast television, not cable, broadcast TV, it's going to be a very interesting situation with NBC to see how they make out with this. Last night, though, they had what you wanted. They had an incredible first game, overtime, double overtime game, nip and tuck all the way. Great call by Mike Tirico alongside Reggie Miller and Jamal Crawford. The visual camera work was marvelous. Replays were great. The score bug has to be worked on. The score bug was a mixed bag. I like the popping of the colors, but you had to look one side or the other to your head to see the teams. Also, the stuff at the bottom, including the fouls, even on a smart TV set with like 55, 60 inch, you couldn't see it. They got to do some work on it. However, overall, NBC has got to be very over the moon, headed by executive producer Sam Flood with what they did. And I thought Noah Eagle, by the way, and Grant Hill are going to make a super team in the second game. Great game with the comeback by the Warriors over the Lakers. Great individual performances in both games. And it's going to be a big year for the return of the NBA on NBC, because they're also going to have the NBA All-Star Game. They're going to have Sunday Night Basketball starting in February. They're going to have, for the very first time, a quadruple header on Martin Luther King Day, where Peacock will get the first game in the afternoon, then NBC and Peacock share the rest. And also, Telemundo, for the first time, is going to carry the NBA All-Star Game next February, and they're also going to carry the Sunday Night Basketball game. So overall, for NBC and Peacock, a very big start to what is going to be, I think, an incredible era of basketball. Tonight, of course, we've got ESPN back with Inside the NBA. So for all those folks who are wondering what's going to happen with TNT, Ernie Johnson and the gang will be back with NBA tip-off to start, and then Inside the NBA right after the second game. And then on Friday, we've got Prime Video with two games, doubleheader games. We'll have Iron Eagle probably covering the first game play-by-play, Kevin Harlan the second. By the way, with both ESPN and with Prime Video, we're going to have bet tracking for the first time. If you have a FanDuel account, you'll be able to track your bet on the Prime Video games. And tonight, if you are part of the ESPN Mega Content Service, we understand from an organization called Antenna that 2 million people at least have the ESPN Mega Content or Limited Service. You will be able to track your bets also on tonight's NBA coverage. So this is the beginning of a major new era for basketball on television.
We should also mention, Simon, Michael Jordan, part of the broadcast, so to speak, did a sit-down interview, and really his first exclusive interview since the Last Dance documentary during the pandemic, 2019, 2020 is when he did those. So that will pique people's interest as well to see what he thinks about the game.
Very much, Craig. That was a wonderful interview. And also, it was great to hear Jordan be on the opening title sequence of the NBA. By the way, that sequence with Round Ball Rock, the original announcer of the NBA telecast, the way it was put out with the original logo and credits, really exceptional. And by the way, you'll see Jordan not only with more of that interview, but as time goes on, you'll see him make special contributions to NBC and Peacock's coverage.
All right, so Apple TV, of course, got out of a lot of the sports that they were trying, included Major League Baseball, Simon, but they basically put all their chips, at least for the time being sports-wise, into Formula One. Mega deal signed by Apple, and smartly so. Formula One may not be as popular here in the States, Simon, but worldwide, it's one of the most popular sports in the world.
And that's what Apple TV is betting on. They are betting that by putting $150 million a year, which is, by the way, double of what ESPN and ABC were paying the last few years, that they're going to make Formula One into a bigger worldwide sport. They'll probably use multi-view. They'll probably do interactive versions of the races. Don't forget that Formula One also is getting more of a fan base in the United States, because we're seeing like 3 or 4 races now in the U.S. as opposed to the rest of the world. So Eddie Q, who is the one of the key people people at Apple TV, has made it very clear in his interviews with media that what Apple wants in terms of sports events is they want exclusivity. They want to be the one place where you find Formula One. They want you to be the one natural place to find Major League Soccer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this is their biggest gamble yet in sports. They may make more, and I think if Formula One works out, they will be a big player in upcoming negotiations for major sports rights.
Main Street Sports is taking on a lot of different new programming. We know they're a big part of the RSNs here, Simon, across the country, and throwing, FanDuel on the air in a lot of different spots. And so, they're trying to keep this alive, I know, and part of it is getting some additional fun programming, and looks like Omaha Productions, Peyton Manning's company, is going to be part of their network as well.
They are, and it shows that it looks like, at least for now, the whole situation with those FanDuel sports networks owned by Main Street Sports has stabilized the point to say, okay, we think we have now a stable situation because we've got most of the Major League Baseball teams, the NBA teams, the NHL teams. Now we can try to see if we can make this a more all-around type of sports network. They hired Norby Williamson, who is the former guru of programming at ESPN, to sort of oversee the look of each of these networks. Now they're working with Peyton Manning, his own Productions, to not only create original programming, scripted and unscripted, for these networks, but also to sell to third parties. So Main Street now has their own production division, and they're going to work with Peyton Manning and Omaha to create original programming, scripted, unscripted, maybe special events, to not only run on these regional sports networks, but also on ESPN, also on Prime Video, also on Netflix and other places. This is a great move by Main Street Sports, and it shows that maybe, just maybe, they may be turning the corner in terms of regional sports networks and trying to become more of a national sports player.
Yeah, and they did add a weekly show, or daily show, I should say, as well. Great job by them. Whip around type programming with all of the different networks that are owned by Main Street, with live look-ins at the NBA games, the NHL games, baseball games. So I think you're right, Simon. Not only is the corner turned for them, but they seem to be really being aggressive in the market, which could end up being a really good thing for them. All right, Simon, great stuff as always. Thanks for coming on the show. We'll catch up soon.
You got it, Craig. Take care. Enjoy the rest of the basketball this week.
All right, Simon Applebaum from the podcast tomorrow will be televised. Coming up next, Major League Baseball's World Series is on deck. It has an international feel. We'll tell you more about that next.
After the first week of football, who'd have thought Alabama would be right back on the top? After a couple losses, Texas would have a chance to be back where they are. And we've all kind of watched Texas A&M and Ole Miss kind of jump right in the hunt. And, that Texas A&M's kind of become my dark horse because they can beat you offensively and they can beat you defensively.
The Bowden Blitz, only on SportsGrid.
Better bets, $90,000, FanDuel, New Jersey, LA. Oh, it must be some sharp hockey better. Yeah, or a rich kid with nothing better to do on a Tuesday night. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That is funny. God rest his soul, Dave Sheridan always used to say, if he told me this one time, Gabe, he told me 1,000. It's not how much someone bets that moves line, it's who's bet.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
I think they are fringes. Yeah, that might be a push. That's a preference thing, I think. Do you want to be in the SEC? Do you want to live in Happy Valley versus Norman? Maybe you can go down to Texas.
I would take Norman.
Well, to go down and get talent out of Texas.
Yes.
But I think you've got to have alumni, president, athletic director that are all on board and committed to winning. And you need to have a fan base that shows up in sports.
The Bobby Carpenter Show, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Yes, this is going to be the most international World Series we've seen in quite some time. I mean, you just think about it. First of all, the American League team is from Canada. The National League team has Shohei Ohtani, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and Roki Sasaki. So yes, there's going to be a lot of international flair, not to mention all of the other players from other countries, including the Dominican Republic and others. Let's turn it over to our friends at Front Office Sports and tell us just how international the World Series will be when it gets fired up later this week.
You correctly point out the international draw for both teams, really, in terms of the player base, that there's going to be huge international flavor. Not only, certainly we'll have the domestic viewership in the U.S., but we're going to have big numbers again in Japan like we did last year because of Ohtani and now Yamamoto and Sasaki. But the entire nation of Canada is going to be rallying behind the Blue Jays.
Yes, and not only are we getting the battle of two of the top 5 payrolls across Major League Baseball, we're also getting a Blue Jays team that, when you look at the last 2 free agency periods, have missed out on some big-name players, a number of them which are on the Dodgers, the Roki Sasakis. Yep. Of course, we all remember Shohei Ohtani as we were tracking his plane to Toronto. Even Blake Snell and Teoscar Hernandez that were at one point in conversation with Toronto. What are your thoughts on this Blue Jays versus the almost Blue Jays and the Dodgers as an extra storyline that makes people excited to tune in?
Yeah, it's really a great story that, again, the Blue Jays, they've got the entire nation of Canada behind them and a lot of resources that their ownership group, Rogers Communication, is really one of the most powerful sports entities in the entire world that got a bunch of other teams, now majority control of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, the regional sports network, a ton of facilities. And it's been a long time coming in terms of trying to harness all that power into getting something that breaks through onto the field. That has now happened, but a lot of the folks within the team and Rogers Communication would tell you there's been a lot of work done to try to improve their processes and got a lot of internal things done that got us to this point that we are now with the team.
We obviously don't have the ratings for the ALCS Game 7, but given the fact that we've seen the ratings so far this postseason up 30% from last year, the best we've seen in 15 years, and now, as you mentioned, an international audience, especially in Canada, is there a potential that this could be the highest rated World Series we've seen in a very, very long time?
If you put it all together, yes. I think because we don't have the Yankees and we're losing an American team the way the Nielsen numbers are done in the U.S., it stands quite likely that the U.S. audience specifically will go down. But you have to sort of think about this like we thought about the Four Nations hockey tournament back in February, that if you put the American viewership with the Canadian viewership together, you had something very real. Because what's going to happen in Canada is going to be unbelievable. They're already been doing NFL-type numbers in terms of their penetration for the earlier round games. Now that the Jays are in the World Series for the first time in 32 years, sky's the limit.
Yeah, and something that's fascinating is when you look at the percentage of revenue that goes back into the payroll for both of these two teams, about 72% of their revenue from last year going towards their payroll this year. As you've touched on, building teams, whether it's through international drafts, free agency signings, developing young talent, to be able to get to this point for the Dodgers and the Blue Jays, it does speak a lot to just how much teams are able to leverage their finances. Eric, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting because, again, these are big market, big dollar franchises, and there's a lot of other teams, your Pittsburghs and your Miamis of the world sort of wondering, Colorado, I don't mean to pick on you, but, what's going to be sort of happening? What is the next wave for teams like that who don't have the same kind of resources, the same kind of local media revenue, and so on and so forth that these two teams have? And that's going to be very much a fundamental component component of the labor negotiations next year between players and the owners.
Well, one of those teams, the Mariners, obviously got so close, couldn't end up sealing the deal at the end. Obviously, George Springer complicated things last night. But, obviously, the Mariners had a great run, not as high a payroll for them. Do you see them continuing on this great success that they've been able to build? And the Mariners will be a force to be reckoned with here in the American League for a while.
I definitely do. Their main core with Julio Rodriguez and, of course, Cal Raleigh, the superstar, they're locked up long-term for many, many years, and a number of their other players are going to be around for a while as well. The next wave is going to be how can they add on that, because this has not been a front and center destination for free agents, veteran free agents when they hit the open market. A lot of these stars have either been homegrown or acquired through trade or Rule 5 draft or some of the other means of acquiring talent. Getting that veteran free agent talent to sort of take them over the top in that next level, that's going to be the thing to watch. But they've now shutting down Root Sports Northwest. They're folding into the league-run media model. There's a little bit more certainty there. That I think they're going to be a player for a while yet.
That Patrick Mahomes era, I'm not going to say it's coming to the end, but we've seen it slipping for the last 3 seasons. Even when they won the Super Bowl a couple years ago against the 49ers, they shouldn't have even made the playoffs according to the metrics that year. And I think they're continuing to decline a little bit. And I'm not ready to go get all excited because they beat the Lions. Hey, they also lost to the Jaguars.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Great quarterback, the best quarterback in football. But when you play a 60-minute game of football on national TV and the referees do not call a single penalty against you when you committed 13 penalties the week before in a nationally televised loss, I'm sorry, but the jig is up.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Better bets, $90,000, FanDuel, New Jersey, LA. Oh, it must be some better. Yeah, or a rich kid with nothing better to do on a Tuesday night. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That is funny. God rest his soul, Dave Sheridan always used to say, if he told me this one time, Gabe, he told me 1,000. It's not how much someone bets that moves line, it's who's betting.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Paige or Caitlin? Who do you take and why?
I think for the WNBA, in a sense where they're moving toward more guards when it's been very post and big heavy in the past. But there's a reason why Caitlin Clark set all those records at college and then went into the WNBA and set all those records immediately. I really do think she's just a different level talent.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We got 30 minutes with Dexter Henry, so that's a lot of time to go back and preview all of the games going on. And Dexter's going to give his insights. We'll see if he has any betting positions as well, and so he's going to spend some time with us. We appreciate the time, Dexter. Thanks for coming on the show. And opening night, last night of the NBA, I guess that's what they call it, but only 2 games. Back in my day, they used to have 15 games on opening night. I mean, I remember going to the games and checking the scores of the other ones. But let's go through it here, Dexter. The world champs, as I suspected here on the show yesterday, we're going to play a close game. It just seems like whoever raises the banner on opening night doesn't cover. For whatever reason, maybe it's just being all in the moment. I don't know, but they end up winning double overtime. SGA 35 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and I'm assuming that the Thunder will play better as they go. It's just hard to not get caught up in the moment. I think they did a little bit yesterday.
I think so. And I think you make a good point, Craig. We see this happen year after year with these teams on opening night. Listen, it's a long ceremony before. Your rhythm is a little out of whack in terms of what you do for your pregame routine and warm-ups and all that. But I thought the Thunder, they started to look better. They were down in this game at some points in the third quarter. They came back. But you saw the reason why you should possibly believe that they can repeat. Their defense is just really that good. When they needed to get stops, they got stops, and they did this without Jalen Williams, their second best offensive player. They did this without him, and they looked really good. I mean, at times, I think both teams look shaky a little bit, the Rockets as well. But I think you got to like what you saw from the Thunder and just their defense overall. And they're a team that's now going to have more experience. They're still a very young team, but they know how to win. And I think that was on full display, especially down the stretch in the fourth quarter, double in both the overtime sessions. That was definitely on display last night.
Yeah, at SGA's 24 points in the fourth and overtime, most points by any NBA player in the fourth quarter and overtime in a season opener in this century. Wow, that's crazy. Real quick, Houston Rockets, their win total 52.5. Not much movement based on last night's game. Anything to say on Houston before we move forward to the Lakers and Warriors?
Yeah, no, I think with Houston, I think people are going to talk a lot about the starting lineup they threw out there and the length they have. And that's one thing you're going to see with them. This is going to be a very good defensive team. They're going to play hard. They have a lot of length. I thought that Amen Thompson showed me something last night. I think a lot of people, he's their favorite for not rookie of the year, most improved player. And so you like a lot of what you saw there. Here's the thing. Alperen Şengün looked well, is good too. Jabari Smith Jr. looked good in spots. They've got a lot of length, but you saw something that hurt them, and that was the lack of a point guard without Fred VanVleet. You can see that's really going to hurt them. You can have all that size, but Amen Thompson is learning to play the point guard position, and that is the toughest position to learn to play in the NBA, no doubt. So they're going to have to get some better ball handling, and the guy who knows how to run the offense down the stretch. I'm very intrigued to see how they adjust to that. Do they make a trade? Do they try to pick somebody else up? It's going to be very interesting. I don't think any of that will happen until the trade deadline, but that's something to watch with the Houston Rockets.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the Warriors took on the Lakers yesterday. This sort of went as expected a little bit. I thought the post game was interesting, hearing Steph Curry say that this season their goal was to get off to a better start than they did last year, to not have to rush into the playoffs. And that's going to be a lot easier when you have Jimmy Butler, who joined the Warriors, leaving the Heat in the dust. Man, the Heat going to start off their season tonight looking at this line score from last night. 31 points, 16 of 16 from the field. I mean, Jimmy Butler didn't put up that line one time last year for the Miami Heat. I guess he wanted out there so bad. Hey, when Jimmy's happy, teams you're playing on is good and he's performing, right?
That is absolutely true. Jimmy looks happy. He looks well in Golden State. The thing is how many games you're going to get from him, right? And that's what you haven't seen a lot from Jimmy Butler in the last couple of years. Listen, but look, I think if the Warriors get anything north of 65 games from him, you will sign for that. This is a motivated Jimmy Butler. I think Jimmy Butler being in the system in Golden State matters. I think Stephen Curry's right of this team. I love their over for 47.5 wins. I love the over on that. I've been talking about that. I thought it was really good because I thought they would be what Curry said. They'll be motivated to win a lot of games. I think they're a team that wants to make sure they get the highest seed possible. I think you could see them finish anywhere from 3 to 7 in the West. That wouldn't shock me. I think there are a lot of players on this team that know the system, that know their roles. From obviously Curry and Draymond Green, but I think Jimmy Butler's a great fit. I think Jonathan Kuminga and how well he plays or improves in this system now that he's back and everything is in the fold with his contract. I think how well he plays is going to be very interesting for his team. Not a great showing from him last night, not terrible either, but I think players are going to even get more familiar and comfortable. But they've got a lot of good role players. Brandon Przemski, another one too that plays well. Buddy Hield off the bench. You saw that last night. So I like this Warriors team. Are they true contenders? I'm not sure if they have enough for that, but I think they're on that next grouping right outside a team that's going to make it tough for you. You don't want to play. And with a team like Jimmy Butler, with a player like Jimmy Butler on the team, they're always going to compete.
Lakers fall short without LeBron James, and Dexter, that kind of caught, I think, some people by surprise a couple of weeks ago. They said he would miss a month, so that leads me to believe that maybe it's only a few weeks. But you're going to have to catch me up here a little bit on this with this LeBron situation, because I feel like without him, the Lakers are in big trouble. But again, with so many extra teams now playing in the play-in games, the Lakers seemingly are just going to try to get him healthy and then cruise, right, until they can get themselves in the playoffs. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I mean, this is what you have to do. We got to remember, like, I don't want to be the ageist here, but LeBron James is old and he's dealing with sciatica. That is that is a old man injury, right? If you want to say, or old man condition you have to deal with. So they have to be very cautious with him. Can he still be effective? We've seen LeBron be effective offensively the last couple of years, but I think sometimes we just have to remember his age and where he's at and where he's going to turn 41 in December. He's getting older. This is year number 23 for him in the NBA. And so they're going to have to manage that well. And I still think you're asking a lot for LeBron. I actually think them playing without LeBron for some period of time, Craig, is a good thing because this is now Luka's team. And we're seeing that it's Luka's team. I also think it's good for Austin Reeves. You're seeing the development from him. I love last night, a prop that I was very interested in was his over for assists. And the line was 5.5. And Austin Reeves crushed that with 9 assists. I would tell people, look at that. If that line stays around 5.5, bang that over. I don't think it'll stay that long over the next couple of games, but that's one of the early season values I like. He's going to be the secondary playmaker. The ball will be in his hands a lot. What you don't love about the Lakers is perimeter defense. And they're going to need more on the defensive end of the perimeter. They're going to need more out of DeAndre Ayton. So can they stay afloat without LeBron, to your point, Craig? I think that's the key. And hopefully that LeBron is healthy when he comes back to give them an extra punch and another ball handler they can absolutely use.
NBA returned to NBC, Dexter, and this was, certainly my wheelhouse, like going after people like me. I thought not only did NBC do a really good job, but I think that they may have opened up this box for other companies and other networks to start thinking about how nostalgia could factor in without even the product on the court or on the field, how to work and weave that in. I think we're going to see some more of this. Great job by NBC, who I know, Dexter, they want to be a big player in sports. I think they'll probably end up with some Major League Baseball as well.
I think what they did so well last night, and obviously people like you and I who grew up watching NBA on NBC and know exactly, you hear the John Tesh music come on and how you feel about it. The presentation was just amazing. They made the game feel grand. It felt like it was opening night from the starting lineups to, I'll even go before that, to what they did in showing the trophy, the banner raising and the presentation of all that and the players getting their rings and everything. It looked good. It felt bigger than usual. I think a knock from fans we saw last year was the finals didn't feel like the finals. And I think they showed a masterclass in the presentation of the game, the look. I love the scoreboard bug. I thought that looked good. I thought Mike Tirico and Jamal Crawford were great on the broadcast to go along with Vince Carter. I thought that was great. Everything just felt grand and bigger. And then they tied in the nostalgia, as you said. And I think you got to make events feel like events. And when they do, fans that are watching, viewers are going to love that. And I'm very intrigued to see what other companies do with this and then what they do with baseball, because they were a big part of baseball, as you know, back in the day, Craig, and they made postseason baseball feel really grand too.
Yeah, NBC at this point, it seems like they feel like they've got the NFL on Sunday night, they got the NBA on Sunday night. If they get baseball back, they own Sunday night in sports. We'll be right back with more of Dexter Henry next.
That Patrick Mahomes era, I'm not going to say it's coming to the end, but we've seen it slipping for the last 3 seasons. Even when they won the Super Bowl a couple years ago against the 49ers, they shouldn't have even made the playoffs according to the metrics that year. And I think they're continuing to decline a little bit. And I'm not ready to go get all excited because they beat the Lions. Hey, they also lost to the Jaguars.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Great quarterback, the best quarterback in football. But when you play a 60-minute game of football on national TV and the referees do not call a single penalty against you when you committed 13 penalties the week before in a nationally televised loss, I'm sorry, but the jig is up.
The Craig Carden Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Better bets, $90,000, $90,000, FanDuel, New Jersey, LA. Oh, it must be some sharp hockey better. Yeah, or a rich kid with nothing better to do on a Tuesday night. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That is funny. God rest his soul, Dave Sheridan always used to say, if he told me this one time, Gabe, he told me 1,000. It's not how much someone bets that moves line, it's who's betting.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Paige or Caitlin? Who do you take and why?
I think for the WNBA, in a sense where they're moving toward more guards when it's been very post and big heavy in the past. But there's a reason why Caitlin Clark set all those records at college and then went into the WNBA and set all those records immediately. I really do think she's just a different level talent.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. Dexter Henry's kind enough to give us another 10-15 minutes to preview some of these games in the NBA because I can't do it without him. Just to be clear, I could throw some darts at NBA games, but I'm not going to even try to predict the outcomes of these. It would be darts. I'm just telling you, it would be darts. I wouldn't know. The only one that I could do would be this one, the first one we're going to talk about here. So the annual tradition of the Heat opening up against the Magic. Here we go again. This has to happen every year. It feels like it does for Atlanta. It is always. And so the Magic are at home. They're better than the Heat. I know that. Here's what I don't know. Is the Heat going to be as bad as being projected here? They're playing without Tyler Hero to start. They're playing without Ware now, who got hurt a couple of days ago in practice. And the line is Magic -8, total of 214.5. Orlando's got 3-4 guys. Does Miami have anybody outside of Bam who can have a big game tonight? I'm not sure. What do you make of this one?
So Miami as a team, I like their over-under, I believe it was 37.5. Most places you could get it at. I like their over just because I like when there's a underdog Miami team with maybe not as much talent as you think. I think Eric Spoelstra does some of his best work there. And so I think this team is going to fight and compete. I love their trade for Norman Powell. I thought that was a good addition for them this year. So when I look at this game, Craig, and the line being 8 for the Magic, and I've got some questions about the Magic. I think the Magic will be improved, but I think a lot of people are ready to anoint them to a higher level offensively that I'm not so sure about here because their two stars are high volume guys who need the ball in their hands. That's Paolo Banchero and Wagner, Franz Wagner. I'm still concerned about their shooting. Desmond Bane should help. Now, are they 8 points better than the Miami Heat here? That I'm not sure about either. I kind of like Miami in the points in the spot. I think there's a lot of hype around Orlando. What I would take in this game is I think this is going to be a slugfest for points. I love the under. I saw the line there was 214. I would go under that for this game. I think these teams will struggle to score a little bit. Orlando's really good defensively. Miami also brings the energy defensively. I think your best bet here is to go with the under 214 points in this contest. If I was going to play the line, I would take the Heat plus the 8 points.
Yeah, and by the way, I have no data to back this up, Dexter, but I can't imagine that the Heat have been an 8-point or higher dog in an opening night game in a really, really, really long time. I'm thinking like 15 years, maybe. It's been a super long time since I've seen that.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. Cavaliers Knicks. Let's do that one.
That's crazy to think about. They haven't been that kind of dog on opening night for that long. You're right.
I mean, the last time maybe was like sort of when they hit the rebuild button after Shaq. Like really, I'm thinking it's that long ago. All right, so Cavs Knicks tonight. Cavs are the favorites to win the East. They're 1.5-point favorites tonight in New York. Injuries are part of the story as well. Total of 228.5. But if the Cavs are supposed to be a big favorite to win the East, why only a 1.5 favorite? I guess the Knicks are supposed to be just as good this year.
Yeah, people expect that from the Knicks. These are your two favorites to win the East. But I think in terms of this game, I think the Knicks would be favored at home if we knew that they were going to have Mitchell Robinson and Josh Hart there, who are both going to be out for this game. So those are two of the Knicks' best rebounders, and where the Knicks have killed the Cavs in their matchups with them have been on the glass, although the Knicks did not do a good job against the Cavs at all last year. However, I think the Knicks are deeper this year. They're a better team than they should be. So this is an interesting game. The Cavs also will not have DeAndre Hunter. So that's also a loss for them here too. I think the Knicks without Mitchell Robinson is going to be very interesting. They're likely to start Ariel Hukporti. We do not know that yet, but we will see how that goes, if they'll keep their double big lineup to go against the Cavs double big lineup. This, to me, I think the line reflects what it is. This is a pick'em game. This might come down to the play of the backcourts. What does Jalen Brunson and Mikal Bridges, how do they do against Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland? I think that can go a lot. I don't really love betting this game because, like I said, it's a pick'em. Maybe you want to back the Knicks coming out with some good energy at home, a big game for Jalen Brunson. I could see that, but this is a really tough game because of the injuries. I'd be inclined to take the Knicks. If you really like the Knicks, get the money line. You're getting just a bit over even money there, but could I see the Cavs winning this game? Sure. I could absolutely see that too. What I would say to look at if I had a prop for this game, Jordan Clarkson, I think, could be a spark guard of this team. His line is around 11 points. But I'm going to tell people to actually look at his assists. Jordan Clarkson is a bit of an underrated playmaker than we see. The line you're seeing for him is about 2.5. I'd go over that. I think he can get 3 or more assists in this game and this Mike Brown offense in the way they're moving the ball. Look for Jordan Clarkson to get over 2.5 assists in this one.
Injuries also the story to open up the season for both the 76ers and the Celtics. Celtics very well documented. And, clearly Celtics win total probably going to be around 500, maybe a little bit better. So dart throw tonight as they're 3.5-point favorites. Usually an NBA team that's even with another is 2 or 3-point favorites. Joel Embiid, 19 games played last year, Dexter. 19 games played. He's supposed to play tonight, so that's good news. We know Paul George is out. Total of 229.5. I guess without really knowing a ton about this, I would say, why not Philly tonight? We don't know what Boston's going to look like.
I also have no idea we know a little bit about what Philly's going to look like. I just don't know how much Joel Embiid is going to play, right? Like, it's a good thing that he is playing tonight, and that's a factor. He looked good in his final preseason game. I'm actually inclined here to take Boston to cover, just because I don't trust how much Joel Embiid is going to play. I don't know how long he can go for. I think Philly has a lot to figure out. We know Quentin Grimes will get the start. VJ Edgecombe looks good for them as a young, promising rookie there in the backcourt. But I think Boston, they still have a lot of connectivity. We know the head of the stake now is going to be Jaylen Brown this year. Derek White, another good player for them that we can see. But the line being 3.5, I expect this to be a competitive game. I think it will be, but I think Boston being at home gives me a little bit of more confidence in them and their edge, and Joe Mazzulla knowing this team and coaching them. I know there's a lot of change in Boston, but I just still think their system and their players and their head of the snake and Jaylen Brown here, them knowing what they're doing. Anthony Simons is another player to watch. I think can thrive in this 3-point heavy lineup that you see from this Boston Celtics. So I'm going with Boston to cover here. Boston minus 3.5. I just like them here in this spot because and I think we're going to be saying this all season long, Craig. I have no idea what we're going to see with the Sixers or what we're going to get with the Sixers or who's going to play for the Sixers. So they're a very tough team to bet.
It's been going on for years in Philadelphia. All right, Dexter, Thanks again for coming on. Have a great rest of your week.
No problem. Appreciate you, Craig. Thank you, man.
We'll be back to wrap it up with Last Licks next.
After the first week of football, who'd have thought Alabama would be right back on the top? After a couple losses, Texas would have a chance to be back where they are. And we've all kind of watched Texas A&M and Ole Miss kind of jump right in the hunt. And, that Texas A&M's kind of become my dark horse because they can beat you offensively and they can beat you defensively.
The Bowden Blitz, only on SportsGrid.
Better bets, $90,000, FanDuel, New Jersey, LA. Oh, it must be some sharp hockey better. Yeah, or a rich kid with nothing better to do on a Tuesday night. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That is funny. God rest his soul, Dave Sheridan always used to say, if he told me this one time, Gabe, he told me 1,000. It's not how much someone bets that moves line, it's who's betting.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
I think they are fringes.
Yeah, that might be a push. That's a preference thing, I think. Do you want to be in the SEC? Do you want to live in Happy Valley versus Norman? Maybe you can go down to Texas.
I would take Norman.
Well, to go down and get talent out of Texas.
Yes.
I think you've got to have alumni, president, athletic director that are all on board and committed to winning. And you need to have a fan base that shows up in sports.
The Bobby Carpenter Show, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
The San Francisco Giants have made their hiring official of Tony Vitello. It's been widely rumored the Tennessee head baseball coach would end up being San Francisco's Major League Baseball coach. Why is this interesting? There has never been a coach in the history of college baseball that has gone from the collegiate ranks to managing a Major League Baseball team. Fascinating hire for sure for the Giants. As we wrap up the show with some last licks, a very high price tag on a Michael Jordan card, and also some shots fired from Russell Wilson, the quarterback of the New York Giants, on his former coach. Let's get to that and a whole lot more as we wrap up today's show with some last licks. So after the Denver Broncos beat the New York Giants on Sunday, the head coach of the Denver Broncos, Sean Payton, had nothing but glowing things to say about their quarterback. And very specifically, he said them about Jackson Dart, saying that the Giants made the right call putting him in the game as early as they did a few weeks ago. I want you to take a listen to what Sean Payton had to say about that.
I have a ton of respect for that organization. I spent 4 of my early years there. Coordinating Super Bowl, first game in this stadium before 9/11, close with the Mayor Tisch family, and they found a little spark with that quarterback. I was talking to John Mayer not too long ago, and I said we were hoping that change would have happened long after our game. But anyway.
I think right now, to see what Russell Wilson said in return is fascinating. Wilson says, I didn't realize that we were still going bounty hunting 15 years later, taking a shot at Sean Payton. Of course, the head coach, Payton, with the Saints, had an issue with his defensive coordinator, Greg Williams, was caught. And Payton, of course, had to sit out time as well. Wilson, now the backup quarterback of the Giants, not happy to see that his former coach, when Wilson was with Denver, taking shots at him. You never see Russell Wilson fire back like this. But Wilson, with not a lot to do, basically says this. The other thing you do have to wonder, let's just keep it real a little bit. It seems like nobody really likes Russell Wilson ever. If you're willing to take a shot at him like this as his former head coach, I don't know. Don't know a ton about this guy, but it seems like everybody's always trying to poke holes at Russell Wilson. It's probably his last year, I would guess, in the NFL, unless he wants to be a backup. Okay, $2.7 million. That's the highest price tag ever for a Michael Jordan rookie card. Why did it sell for so much? Not because it was graded PSA 10, but it was signed by Jordan, who has an affinity for not signing anything of worth of anything. And somehow somebody got Jordan to do a private signing several years ago. And I can't even imagine how much money they must have paid him. So this 1986 Fleer Jordan rookie card sold for $2.7 million. It's the highest sale ever for an aftermarket autograph and the most ever for a Jordan rookie. Again, it was done privately. No one even knows how much Jordan was paid for the signing, but all of a sudden, some autographs popped up on the market. And Jordan has not commented on this as well. He's probably not going to comment, but somebody paid him a lot of money, millions of dollars to sign, and they're going to make a lot of money off these signed rookie cards as well. Finally, last night in the NBA, it was the Los Angeles Lakers playing on opening night against the Golden State Warriors, and they did so without LeBron James. That's right. James is suffering from sciatica, probably going to miss another couple weeks of the regular season. And how about this? The last time that the NBA had an opening night without LeBron James goes back very, very far. In fact, at the time, there was no such thing as a USB flash drive. Facebook had not even been launched. It was Kelly Clarkson at the time winning American Idol. Dave Chappelle, remember that show? Chappelle's Show, that didn't even exist that long ago, going back decades. LeBron James finally misses an opening night. And remember, back in the day when LeBron played for the first 15 years of his career or so, he was the must-watch player in the first night of the NBA. And I'm sure when they scheduled that game on NBC, they thought that as well. But he didn't play. Missed opening night. Thanks again to our guests here on the program today. Michael DeCourcy of Sporting News, Sam McQuillan of Legal Sports Report, Simon Applebaum of his podcast Tomorrow Will Be Televised, and Dexter Henry of the New York Post. In addition, want to make sure you catch Game Time Decisions. It's coming your way later today. I'll be back with you for our next edition of NewsWire on Thursday. We'll preview the NFL games, college, and of course the World Series. Thanks again to our director Luke and for my producer Frank. I'm Craig Mish. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of NewsWire. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you back tomorrow, same time, same place here on SportsGrid.